It's time for another Dirt Daily. Today I am back in the shop with the Dirty 80 Series LandCruiser. This is my LandCruiser that I bought out of a field. The last episode on it, I put a lift kit on it and bigger tires. And because I'm working on the LandCruiser, that means that this episode is presented by onX Off-Road. onX Off-Road is an app. You put it on your phone. It's a mapping app, a navigational app. It's great for if you like to plan your off-road trips and you want to look at all different types of routes that you could take and go explore. And it's also great if you don't like to plan your off-road trips and you just like to go out and get lost and then you want to figure out how to get home. You can fire up your onX Off-Road app and it will help get you out of the woods and back to your shop so you can work on your stuff. Today's project, I am going to put this spare tire in the back of the LandCruiser. I removed the rear bumper as we did on an earlier episode, and I'm going to come up with some sort of bumper, but I really want to put the spare inside the LandCruiser. Now, why would I do that? Because it does reduce storage, but what's cool about it is that it helps your departure angle. You don't have anything hanging off the back. Swing out tire carriers, love them or hate them. Sometimes they kind of rattle loose and they make a lot of noise, and I've seen them break off completely. Putting the spare tire in the back of your SUV or your truck gives you a way to secure it. It's pretty solid in there. And the cool thing is, I found a spare tire mount that somebody already makes to mount a spare right inside there. And it works for up to a 40-inch tall tire. So today we're gonna install that in there. But first we gotta take all this stuff out. I have started cleaning out the interior of the LandCruiser. So I removed all the back seats and then I put them back in and they've just been floating around in there. And I really only need space for up to the middle row. The very third row seats, I've already gotten rid of those. And I have some parts that have come for the LandCruiser that I need to install, and I've been storing them in the back of the truck just to kind of keep the shop cleaner. But for now, I just want to dig out the back seats that have been floating around in the cargo area so that we can mount the spare tire, which is going to live right in this area. This is what I'm using today. This is from Bell Fab, and it's a spare tire mount. I actually ran into these guys up in Oregon at the Overland Expo, and I've been watching their parts online, and they were back ordered, and I was at a show and they had one on display, and I was like, I really want one. And they said, why don't you buy the one that's on display? So this is actually has a clear coat spray paint on it. And so you can see all the welds, which are really beautiful. And I thought about painting it, and I was like, well, it's already clear coated, so I'm just gonna put it in here. And it's pretty simple because it has a center mount that mounts to the tire, and then comes with a little bag of hardware, and it pretty much screws into mostly existing holes that are already inside the LandCruiser. So inside the LandCruiser, on the driver's side wheel hump, there are some threaded holes, and this is actually where the third row seating mounts to the inside of the vehicle. You have to remove 4 of those bolts, and then this will actually take and line up with the bolt holes in the wheel tub. And what's cool is it already uses some of the factory holes that are in the tub. And you can reuse the factory hardware if you have it, or you can use these new flange bolts that come with the kit. Kind of line them up. Most of the holes are slotted, so there's a little bit of leeway to kind of get everything lined up. You will have to drill some holes in your tub. So if you are a purist or you don't want to drill any holes in your pristine LandCruiser, I can understand if this won't be an upgrade you'll be interested in. I, on the other hand, have kind of a junky LandCruiser and I don't really mind putting a couple holes in it. Even with 2 of the legs bolted down, it's getting more sturdy. The rear section is where you have to drill 3 holes. You can go right through the carpet and then through the sheet metal if you want. And then, again, there are 3 flange bolts that you'll feed right down through both the carpet and the sheet metal, and then put a flat washer and a locking nut on the bottom. This is probably the hardest part of the install, where you have to have one hand inside the car on the wrench, on the bolt, and the other hand underneath the car on the impact, lining it up with the nut, and well, bam. Once the bracket's in place, there is a plate with a threaded hole in the middle that is adjustable up and down. And then this will go through your spare tire. It has like a urethane wedge that wedges into the tire, and then this will screw in there, and you can adjust it up and down to whatever is centered on your tire, and then you'll tighten down these 4 bolts and everything will be locked in solid. Let's put the tire in. These are the 35-inch Kendas on these Nomad wheels. I think you can put it either way, with the wheel in or the mounting surface in or out. I'm gonna go with the mounting surface in, and then maybe I can come back in and pack the inside of the wheel with like a recovery strap or something. This is gonna basically live like that. Gonna reach in there and get the threaded part started. I think you're gonna find that accessing the bolts to tighten them down is easiest if you go through these back sliding windows. Pretty clean and simple, easy install. The brackets are all mounted. The tire is pretty stable. You could probably lower it down even more. You could let some air out, press it down, tighten it in place, and then put a little air in if you really wanted it super solid. I'm not too worried about it. I think once I have tool bags packed in here, recovery gear packed in around it, I don't think it's going anywhere. You could still have one of the 3rd row seats in, but I'm not gonna do that. I don't really need a 3rd row. I'm gonna save that space for coolers, camping gear, tools, dog stuff. It's called Bell Fab. They're from Oregon. You can find them online. They make all types of cool stuff for LandCruisers and other Toyotas, so go check them out. That's a pretty clean and simple little install. You can still shut the tailgate, and there's lots of room around it. That's it for this Dirt Daily. Thanks for tuning in. We will see you guys next time. Don't forget, use the 4xFred, 4xFred discount code when you go to OnX Off-Road if you want to sign up. They have a lot of different programs. They have this Elite program, which is kind of cool, where they get discounts through, you sign up for their Elite program, you get discounts from other vendors that are kind of part of the Elite program. So go check it out. That's it for this Dirt Daily. We'll see you guys next time. One more thing done. Oh, we got to open that back up, put all the stuff back in. I was thinking a little bit more about putting spare tires in your vehicle versus on a tire carrier out back here. Putting a spare tire inside, they do need to be very well secured, because if you're ever in an accident, that's an enormous projectile that can bounce around and hurt people. So having a way to really solidly mount it is important. Having it on the outside does free up space inside there, but you have another 12 inches, 14 inches sticking out the back of your vehicle that if you're trying to maneuver on a tight trail, that's going to reduce your ability because the vehicle is just overall larger. You have this tire in here, and if you get a flat tire, then you are wrestling a big, dirty, muddy flat tire into the vehicle, where if it was on the outside, that would be less filth inside your vehicle, if you care. What else? I think having the spare inside, you definitely don't want it over here on the passenger side, because when you're driving, you often look over your passenger corner out that window, but you rarely ever turn your head all the way around to what is directly behind you. So having it mounted on the driver's side, I think, is important. Some people don't even run spares, and I get that. Super lightweight, super minimalist. However, I've been on the trail where lug nuts have come loose, wheels have gotten all wallowed out because the driver didn't notice the lug nuts were loose, the driver, and you had to patch it and limp your way off the trail if you didn't have more catastrophe. So having not only a spare tire, but a spare wheel, I feel, is important. So I almost always run a spare. Maybe my rock buggy doesn't have a spare, but I think my flat fender doesn't either, because I usually wheel that with other guys that have identical wheels, so hopefully I can steal somebody else's wheel. But I think it's important to take a spare, especially if you like go wheeling by yourself. It's pretty important. And I guess that's about it. I think it's to each their own. It's going to chew up a lot of your space, your storage capacity. Like my little two-door Jeep, I just put that spare tire carrier to hang it off the back. It does block rearward visibility, like straight out the mirror, so that's kind of a detriment. But then my other Jeep, tube sock, that has the spare laying down flat in the back and stuff piled up on top of it, and it has worked out just fine. So it's kind of 6 of one, half a dozen of the other. So you make your choice. I think this is a cool way for this vehicle to have the spare buttoned up inside there and clean up the whole storage of the vehicle. That's it for this Dirt Daily. Once again, we'll see you guys next time. Have a great week.